thought I'd talk to you guys about something, and it has to do with building a car. I've seen a lot of mistakes made lately with people spending money that they don't need to spend. And here's what happens. I had a guy call me up, and he was telling me about his neighbor, how he wants to go faster. He had a Windsor 351 in his Mustang, and it wasn't fast enough. So he decides he wants to go all out and not play around and just try to move up a little bit. He decides to go hog wild into twin turbos. Never having a turbo or tuning a turbo or knowing anything as far as I know about a turbo in his life, except for maybe through friends and people he knows and things like that, as far as I know. So, and that's his business. He has a right to put 4 turbos on the vehicle if he wants to, but this is to try to help somebody out that thinks they might need twin turbos, 1,000 horsepower, and to go out there and be top dog. Because you put the most power in that car doesn't mean you're going to go out there and start beating up on everybody that's out on the street in the drugs racing scene. Chances are you're still at a disadvantage, and if you overpower the vehicle, you're at more of a disadvantage. And you'll say, well, Terry, there's guys making 4,000 horsepower on the street. There's guys out there can make 4,000 horsepower work on the street, which they're doing, where if you have 1,000 horsepower, you might not be able to even get down the track or the street. Because the guys that are doing that, they've been around for a while. They just didn't throw that car together and go out there and go that fast. So that's what happens. We sit back, we watch these guys on YouTube, and we think we're going to save up our money, and we're going to do that. A lot of guys think like that. So anyway, long story short, this guy, he does exactly that. He builds a twin turbo, stroked out Windsor, and he takes it to a very good company down south, one that's been around for a while. And I told my nephew, because he's the one that told me all about this stuff, I said, you know, it's not a walk in the park like that. I don't know your neighbor there or your friend, I said, but he's going to find out, unfortunately, the hard way. And I think my nephew had told him a few things I might have said, I'm not sure. But tried to maybe give him a little bit of Grover information to tell him it's not a walk in the park. So anyway, so from what I know, they blew the engine up twice on the dyno. And I told him, I said, if they put that on the dyno, don't be surprised if he blows the motor up. Because you have to have it halfway tuned in. When you have to have an idea where your air and fuel mixtures are, which a good company, a shop should know. But there you go, 2 engines down on the dyno. This is why I say the things I say, guys, when you hear me talk. There's always a story or a reason behind it when I say something. I usually don't tell what I know to be true sometimes, because I don't ever want to put information out there with somebody else's misfortune when it comes to these things. And I gotta get reseated here. But here's the thing. I see a lot of guys, they want to spend big money, and they want what they want with their vehicle, and that's fine. But just make sure if you're going that route that you know how to tune a car. Make sure you know about turbos. Make sure you know about blowers. Make sure you know about nitrous if you're going to put something like that on your vehicle. Make sure you pick the right parts. Make sure that if you're spending big money like that, and this was big money, this wasn't some out of the car engine we got from a buddy, and if it blows up, it blows up, and we'll have fun doing it, whatever. This is a thick wallet money motor. So anyway, and that's what this is about. Because no matter what way you decide to do this, when you start putting your hard-earned dollars into something, it's best to know that you're going forward, not backwards, when you do a vehicle. So here's the important part and the bad part of this story. He gets the car out where it runs okay and takes it to the track, and he's actually afraid of the car somewhat, and has trouble getting it to hook and things like that. So now some lucky guy out there down the road, if you have $60,000, he wants to sell the car for $60,000. A car that's unproven, a car that has big money in it, and that don't have a time slip matching that vehicle nowhere for that type of money, in my opinion. Now, there's always a buyer for everything out there, so maybe he'll get lucky. But here's the thing. Why wouldn't you just pull the engine back out of that and sell the whole drivetrain and go back to basics? A nice Windsor, Stroker, 392, or some AFR 205 heads on something like that, and do a nice little street package and keep the car that you love. Because he said he loves the car, you just said he went too far with it. I don't know. People have some bad ways of thinking when it comes to a vehicle, I've noticed. It's like they give up too easy in a lot of cases. And some guys have a reason behind what they do with their cars. There's situations involved in life sometimes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about situations like this, where you overdid it, spent more money trying to be top dog. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. You can have a wallet this thick and spend every ounce of money you have. These guys are fast out there today, and the guys have gotten it down. There's guys on the street now that you could build a full-blown race car for the track, and you're going to have your hands full. So that's how it is in today's power-added world that we live in. So I thought I'd put that out there. My point is this: whatever you build, regardless of what it is, make sure that you're not getting in over your head. I will add this. My friend, which was a racer his whole life, and I've talked about this car before, a Camaro that I helped him with, and he had a Nova in it. It got outdated. Every time we took it to the track, they were kicking us out, saying it needed this, it needed that. He kept adding more and more weight to it, so he said he had enough of it. So he says, I'm selling the Nova, I'm building a Camaro. That's really what I'd like to have. So long story short, he gets the Camaro built after probably 8 or 10 years. Takes it to the track, made some changes along the way with certain things. The car wound up going in the 8s on engine. It was a 454, and he put the nitrous on it, a 225 shot, and it went 790 at 170. So what happened there? This guy raced everybody, had race cars his whole life, and he was scared of that car. I said, how come you're not driving the car? He kept getting our friend to drive the car, and he didn't want to tell me. He says, I drifted close to that wall, and I didn't like it. It scared me. So now he had a car that he was afraid of. And guess what happened to that car? No, he didn't wreck it. he sold it. Same thing. After wanting to go faster, and take this into consideration, he would already go in 9 seconds. So there you have it, guys. And believe me, he knew how to drive a vehicle. He knew how to keep the car off the wall and things like that. But he got scared. So once he had reached his limit with that vehicle, my point with this one is, I see guys, they say, oh, I'd like to build a 10-second car. They've never been 13s. They've never had anything. And now they want to say, oh, I'd like to have a 10-second car. You have to, it's just like a baby. You have to crawl before you walk. You have to walk before you run. Some guys do have some natural driving ability in them, and they can do that sometimes. That's one probably out of 100. I have some guys that have jumped into it, and they have it in their blood. But on the most people that are out there and they just decide to get into racing, or they see what's happening, they want to build a vehicle, they don't have a clue how fast even a 10-second vehicle is if you get it out of shape, or even a 12-second vehicle, getting it sideways. If you're not used to driving sideways and having a car break loose on you, you have to take all these things into consideration, guys. And anybody my age or is out there on the racing scene is going to say the same thing to you. We want to stop you from getting hurt. And I've seen a few people get in situations, and it's not good. So I thought I'd just put that out there. I will add this real quick. I had a friend recently that a very smart guy. He was beating people with his Mustang out there. Had some really high dollar engines. He switched over to a turbo, and he had so much trouble getting that right, how he needed that engine to be, that he gave up and went back to nitrous. Now some guys can get that down real easy, but remember this, it isn't just putting a turbo on, it's getting it tuned. And if you don't have somebody who can help you tune that, and you have to pay for that every time you have it tuned, and you better have a guy that knows what he's doing, because they'll take your $500 to tune that vehicle and it still might not be right. So these are all situations to help make you think, do I want to go that route? So just do what you can do. Take your time, and don't think you need to do something that you're not able to do. So just do it as you can. Like in the racing world, if you never had a fast car, get something out there and get used to the trade. Go down the drag strip, get used to lining up next to somebody and things like that. Don't just think you're going to buy a race car and go out there, because that's the biggest mistake you could ever make. My friend was looking at a motorcycle years ago, and he looked at the fastest bike out there, and the guy told him, the dealer selling them bikes, he goes, have you ever ridden one of these bikes before? He says, no. He goes, then I don't want to sell you this bike. He goes, why, know how to ride? He says, I don't want to sell you a bike like this. He goes, you need to start out with a smaller bike. He goes, these bikes are not the same as what you've ridden. If all you've ridden is these little bikes you're telling me about. So I was proud of that guy, because he was more concerned about the person buying that bike than he was making a profit. So I thought I'd throw that in there. I hope you get my way of thinking with this, and I hope this maybe helps somebody know more what to do if you're thinking about getting into racing or building a car. So with that, I want to say God bless you and have a good day.